One day I'm gonna be everything I wanna be. I don't let it get the most of me. One day I'm gonna be free. I wanna be everything I'm gonna be. My future right in front of me. One day I'm gonna be free. I wanna be free. To let me be free. One day I'm gonna be free. Mentally and physically, emotionally and spiritually. Yeah. One day I'm gonna be free. I'm standing at the crossroads. I'm feeling like a lost soul. Don't know where I wanna go, but all I know is I wanna be free. They're telling me to let it be, but that just ain't in me, no. Jealousy and envy, but all I see is I wanna be free. See everything I wanna be, exactly what I'm gonna be. Don't let it get the most of me. Eventually, I'm gonna be free. See everything I wanna be, exactly what I'm gonna be. Yeah. One day I'm gonna be free. I'm gonna be free. Let me be free. One day I'm gonna be free. Mentally and physically, emotionally and spiritually. Yeah. One day I'm gonna be free. I told them take their aim off me. Stop trying to get a name off me. If they would just let me be, I'm gonna be free. I told them take them chains off me and throw away the locks and keys. If they would just let me be, eventually I'm gonna be free. Free.
They're back.
What up, everybody? 7 days, and we're back again for another episode of Diamond Effect. I'm March Bishop. We got Mike Ball. We got Aaron Olinger. What's up, everybody? Glad you were able to tune in. This is this particular topic here. We're gonna have there's gonna be a lot of different opinions on this show, and that's what this show's about. I mean, not everybody is gonna agree with everything that's gonna be talked about tonight, but that's just it. Everybody has their own opinion, and that's what we're going to talk about. But tonight, what we're going to talk about is this kind of controversial right now because it's fresh, and not everybody knows everything that's going on with it. We don't know everything that's going on with it, so we're gonna try to tackle it as we go through. So what we're going to talk about tonight is what's going on in Venezuela. And what we got is that a sitting president was taken. Wasn't voted out. He wasn't overthrown by his people. He was taken out by the world's most powerful country. This didn't happen in the Middle East. It didn't happen in Europe. It happened in Venezuela, a country that's also sitting on the largest oil reserves on earth. Now, several governments around the world are furious about this. The United Nations is divided. Markets are reacting to it, and and people everywhere are asking the same question: was this justice or was this a power move? So tonight we're going to talk about it, and we're not here to defend Maduro, and we're not here to excuse corruption, but we are going to talk about what this moment really means. Because when one country comes in and removes another country's leader, that's something that needs to be talked about. So this isn't just a Venezuela story. This is a global turning point, and a lot of things that's going on with this could also correspond with other things that we've been hearing in the news here lately, the past couple of days, that could be a turning point to some other things that's been talked about. So, so that's what we're going to jump into tonight. But so we'll go into it first as to what actually happened. So the United States carried out a direct operation tied to Venezuelan leadership, which we've all been seeing on TV for the past weeks, dealing with the Navy being out at sea, knocking down quote, quote, drug boats, stuff like that. But the sitting Venezuelan president was removed from power by U.S. authority in the middle of the night. And the U.S. has openly discussed a transitional control and oversight over Venezuela since this has taken place. But why did this shock the world? And it wasn't about the sanctions. It wasn't about the pressure. It wasn't about diplomacy. It was that it was a direct action. And removing a seated head from the state of a foreign power is extremely rare in modern geopolitics. Not the old days, but what's going on right now. And it bypassed some traditional international mechanisms that also have been talked about. It introduced something many believe was over, which was an open regime intervention, basically coming in, taking out who you don't want in, and putting in who you do. It happened fast, decisively, and without any global consensus. It reminded the world that raw power still matters. So the other night, everybody knows that Delta Force was sent in to Venezuela, and they captured the president and also his wife. And they're currently now in New York standing charges on narco terrorism. Since then, you've seen several things on here that was talking about the oil, which would set up a lot of questions with me per se, because for the past few weeks, we've heard about the drugs. And the reason why the Navy was positioned there was that they were supposed to be hitting these drug boats that was coming out of Venezuela carrying drugs to the U.S. Some say that was a good idea. That's what they were doing. Some disagree with it. But now we have a sitting president that's in jail in the U.S. dealing with narco terrorism, and we also have this whole change that's going on in Venezuela right now. And there's a lot of mixed emotions about it. Some agree with what's going on there. Some totally disagree with what's going on over there. And a lot of them is kind of sitting in the middle, just kind of playing because they don't know which way to actually turn. You have China, you have Russia. There's also went to the UN along with South Africa and Iran. I'm thinking that was positioning this, saying that the way that this was done was wrong and that Maduro needed to be turned back over, which I don't see that happening anytime soon. So I have my own reasons as to what I'm thinking, and I'm gonna run through it in a minute. But I'm gonna let Aaron start first because he got quite a bit on this. So was I, but I'm gonna let him speak his piece first. So go ahead, Aaron.
Okay. I'm going to first speak on the Monroe Doctrine. That's what we invoked. That's basically a U.S. foreign policy that opposes European colonialism and intervention in the Western Hemisphere, proclaiming it a separate sphere of influence. The main points of it is European power should not interfere in the affairs of the Americas. The U.S. would not interfere in Europe's affairs if they agreed with that. The primary focus of it is, and the primary function was to protect newly independent Latin American nations and assert U.S. dominance in the region. Reason why it came about was Spain, who we know most of South America speaks Spanish, including Mexico and other areas. They have been kicked out of a lot of the Latin American countries. So President Monroe, who was a Democrat, came up with this ideal and they invoked it, that everybody knew from 1823 till now that the Northern Hemisphere is our domain. We have the dominance in that region, whether people want to recognize it or not. It's been going on since 1823. We've invoked it with what they call gunboat diplomacy. People want to say, well, that was an immoral act. Morality is a standard basically that you set, but power is how you enforce it. If I have a neighbor, my neighbor behind me that I share a fence with, if he's bringing in my enemies and he's opening a drug den and he's sending criminals into my yard and different things, I'm not going to tolerate that very long. I'm going to shut that down. Just like I had a crackhead today that was out in my front yard screaming and hollering at every car that went by and wanting to fight. I mean, he couldn't hardly stand up. You disturbing my peace. So I put the law dogs on his ass. I'm not going to have that stuff around my house, around my children, my grandchildren, any of that. If what's his name? What is his name? Maduro. He wanted to play games. He invited Iran into his country. He confiscated American oil companies' property. He flooded America with criminals and gang members. They took American hostages, held them for ransom, and they did that under the Biden administration. So, you know, he's playing games. Mike, could you put on that one quick short video?
Yeah, sure. Here we go.
Venga por mí. Aquí lo espero en Miraflores. No hace tarde en llegar, cobarde.
I just got three things to say.
Okay, you turn it off.
God bless our troops.
He openly challenged the United States. And this is a clear example of be careful what you wish for. He said, come for me. He called us cowards. But then you go back in history. Go back to Harry S. Truman, because they say Trump broke the law. He didn't get a congressional approval. He didn't get a consensus of other nations involved in this. One, we didn't talk to the Democrats because they're known for telling every damn thing. They leak information. You go back to 1950, Korea, Harry S. Truman, Democrat. He authorized deployment of U.S. troops and airstrikes without a declaration of war from Congress. Republican, Dwight Eisenhower, 1958, ordered air and naval forces into Lebanon to stabilize a political crisis. So there we are interfering with the normal evolution of a country. And we kept somebody in power. We got Democrat John F. Kennedy, Bay of Pigs. We were taking out a leader of a nation, or attempted to, but the CIA botched it. And then later, we had the Cuban Missile Crisis, what they call the missiles of October. We would not tolerate offensive weapons that can harm people inside the United States being down in Cuba, especially when they were being supplied by our enemies. Lyndon Baines Johnson, Democrat, 1964, ordered the airstrikes in Vietnam and the bombing of Vietnam with the B-52s. Richard Nixon, Republican, responsible for Cambodia and Laos bombing campaigns. Those lasted for years. No congressional approval. Democrat Jimmy Carter, 1980, Operation Eagle Claw, failed attempt to rescue the U.S. hostages. He did not get congressional approval to go in there and try to do that rescue. Republican Ronald Reagan, 1986, bombed parts of Libya. And then in 1983, he invaded Grenada. That was a sovereign nation. We violated their territory. Had no congressional approval. Republican George H. Bush, Panama, 1989. We removed an existing leader of a country, Manuel Noriega. I think people forget about that or short-minded on history, but he's still languishing in U.S. jails. And what they got him for was racketeering and drug trafficking. Narco-terrorism was much worse. Bill Clinton, Democrat, Bosnia, 1995, launched NATO airstrikes without approval. And then, because he served 2 terms, in 1998, Operation Desert Fox, which was airstrikes in Iraq. Republican George W. Bush bombed Pakistan, Yemen, Somalia, 2001, with airstrikes, no congressional approval. Barack Obama, 2011, bombed Libya, used the United States military to topple Gaddafi, a sitting leader of a nation. We bombed his military to the point that they couldn't defend themselves against the rebels who we were arming. Then 2014, we bombed Syria, Iraq, and Yemen under Barack Obama. Apparently, we were aiming to hit ISIS camps and ISIS military, but again, no congressional approval. 2021, Joe Biden, Democrat, airstrikes in Syria. 2022, airstrikes in Yemen and Somalia. No congressional approval. No seeking agreement from other nations, getting anyone on the program. Out of 12 presidents, 7 of them were Democrat, 5 of them were Republican. It clearly shows that a president has the authority to initiate certain actions without congressional approval. The history proves it. So I don't understand why the Democrats are upset that he did this, because they've done it more than anybody. And keep in mind the Monroe Doctrine that designates the Northern Hemisphere to belong to the United States, just about, that was invented by a Democrat. So I don't get some of the issues that some of them are having right now, other than that Trump did it. But this guy is guilty of narco terrorism. I tell you something else he's guilty of. Russia was building a weapons factory in Venezuela. Now, if you say we don't have a right to interfere in Venezuelan affairs, okay, China, Russia, and Iran was. They are our enemies. They're trying to put weapons on our borders so they can harm Americans. And Maduro was letting them do it. He was conspiring with them to do it. Now, Russia's building a weapons factory in Venezuela. Russia's military contractors, which were the Cubans, was Maduro's personal bodyguard. He didn't even trust his own damn people. He's got Cuban bodyguards, which Delta Force dispatched all 32 of them. China's poured $100 billion into Venezuela for the oil rights. Most of Venezuela oil goes to China. Now, hours before we captured him, Maduro was meeting with China's special envoy. Let me see, let me skip that. The question right now is, knowing that any nation that wants to lead into the future has to lead in both energy and technology. And knowing that Venezuela has more oil than any country in the world, do you want China controlling that oil? So right now, we've been losing the battle to China. China's overtaken us in pharmaceuticals. They control 80% of the market. They overtaken us in production of goods. We're nowhere even close to them. They got the largest standing army as well as the largest navy in the world. They're overtaking us. How long will it be before we get into something with them? And I mean, and for those that would say, well, it was immoral what we did, China and Russia's already interfering in their stuff that they got going on over there. And like I said, if morality is a standard and you set a standard to a certain level, power is how you're going to enforce it. And that guy openly challenged us, told us come get him, called us cowards. You know, whose moral code do you want to follow? Do you want to follow the American moral code where you can criticize your government and get away with it? Or do you want to follow the socialist moral code where they will execute you for said statements? You know, Trump said, don't mess with America in their own backyard. And I cited the example, if my neighbor was conducting certain activities that would bring harm to me or my family, I'm not going to tolerate that. I'm going to stand up and get them people up out of this neighborhood. There's no way I'm going to take that. So Maduro and them want to play games with us in our own backyard. Kennedy proved in 1963 we're not going to take it. I read a history of us not taking it under Republican and Democrat presidents. So I don't understand where the concern is. I felt that he did a great thing. We didn't lose a single person, and we may have averted a war that was coming that would have got Americans hurt because we would have been in range of the Iranian drones and the Russian bombers that were nuclear bombers that were being stationed there. But I'm stopped there for right now.
So, Aaron, one thing that I'm surprised that you didn't bring up, I mean, because we've been talking about it since it happened. I mean, all of us right here, us three. And we spoke about the petrodollar and about the fall of it.
That's I was going to bring it up.
Yeah.
That was the next thing I'll get ready to bring up. But go ahead, Mike.
Regards to the Saudis, you know, bring back in time, back into, I believe, 73 or something like that, regardless. When we lost the gold standard, we became the petrodollar standard, basically. Mm-hmm. And that gave us basically any excuse to go ahead and print as much money as we wanted because it was still backed by something. Well, 50 years later, the deal was up, and it was up to go ahead and re-up the deal here. And unfortunately, the Saudis said, no, we don't need your guys' protection anymore, because that's essentially what we traded. We said to the Saudis, we'll go ahead and protect you guys. You got to think of these Middle East countries. They're monarchs, they're dictatorships for the most part. And so what's the worst thing that can happen to a dictatorship or monarch is when you lose power. So what ended up happening with the Saudis, we came in and said this was a nifty little deal because we had just lost the gold standard. It was a good way to go ahead and keep our currency that way. And so we said, we'll go ahead for the prince family, whatever, that we would go ahead and protect them. And 50 years later, they said, fuck you guys. We're going up to, I forget what the exact country was, but they went to a different country that has nuclear backing, and right there in the Middle East somewhere. Anywho, that's the one thing is on the Western Hemisphere where we live, It's one of the only countries really that is going really hardcore with the BRICS alliance, trying to become a part of the BRICS alliance. And it was coming. It was coming. And that was the biggest issue, is if you undermine the U.S. dollar anytime, the hegemony of the U.S. dollar, this is what happens. Everything that you saw has nothing to do with drugs, has nothing to do with any of that shit. It really has to do down to resources, but how does that boil down to? Yeah, so that's essentially what it is.
Okay, I'm gonna address what you just said about the petrodollar. Now, allegedly, and we brought it up in the last show, on December 15th of this year, the Saudis was contacted by the Chinese, and the Chinese asked the Saudis one question, and that is, "Are you ready?" And the Saudis said they've been ready for 2 years. So they got in touch with the Russians and wanted to plug in their oil reserves to the Russians' combat-proven method of defeating our sanctions and the workarounds that they set up for alternative currencies, and the Russians agreed to do it. I mean, there's a bigger plan here. Power is at play, but I'm gonna hold off because Bishop wanted me to hold it to the end for us to get into it. But it's going to involve silver, it's going to involve petrodollar, it involves technology, it involves energy. But I'm gonna stop there because Bishop needs to get his piece out.
Yeah, well, I was going actually I'm gonna touch on both of them. I'm gonna touch on what you said, but I'm also touch on what Mike said, because I was gonna go into that. And I was gonna talk about the real reason, what I feel the real reason is that the US is invading Venezuela. And it goes back, like Mike said, it goes back to the deal that Henry Kissinger made with the Saudis back in 74. And we've talked about that several times, and I'm going to explain the reason why I'm thinking that. And this whole thing is about the survival of the dollar itself. And we seen last week how just the silver price alone sent banks, some of them went bankrupt. The Fed had to bail out a bunch of them. A bunch of stuff went on. So the dollar is already fragile anyway. I don't think that this was, now it was set up from the beginning about drugs. I don't think it was about drugs. I don't think it was about terrorism. I don't think it's about democracy. This is about the petrodollar system.
But it starts by labeling Tren de Aragua a terrorist organization, so then you can use military assets and you can use intelligence agencies to go ahead and go after them, and you can do whatever the fuck you want to them.
Right, right. So like I said, this is about the petrodollar system. And this is what has kept America dominant for over the past 50 years. Now, Venezuela just threatened to end that. And here's what really just happened. Now, Venezuela has 303 billion barrels of proven oil reserves. That's the largest on the earth, more than Saudi Arabia, 20% of the entire world's oil, actually. But here's the part that matters with that. Venezuela was actively selling oil to China,
right,
using the Chinese yuan, not dollars. And in 2018, Venezuela announced that it would free itself from the dollar. They started accepting the yuan, euros, rubles, anything but the dollar for oil.
Right.
And they were petitioning to join BRICS, like you just said. Now, they were building a direct payment system using the channels that China had to bypass SWIFT entirely. And they were sitting on enough oil that they could fund that, because the entire American system, the financial system, was built on one thing: oil, because we were already out of the gold standard. So all the oil sold globally during the petrodollar, with the agreement with Saudi, had to be priced in US dollars. In exchange, Americans provided military protection, which they've done for the past 50 years. Now, that single agreement created the artificial demand for dollars worldwide. Everybody
gave
had
us
to
that
have
backing.
Right. So every country on earth needed dollars to buy oil. That lets America print unlimited money while other countries had to work for it. It funded the military, and it basically brought us to where we are as continuing to be a dominant. But the petrodollar is more important to the U.S. hedge funds and overall finances than any aircraft carrier or jet that we can even come up with. Now, there's a pattern that happened with these leaders that challenged this, which is what Aaron was talking about. So let's go down that list. So in 2000, Saddam Hussein announced that Iraq was going to sell oil in euros instead of dollars. What happened? All of a sudden, we got weapons of mass destruction. We sent everybody over there. You didn't find no weapons of mass destruction, but you took all the oil and you took all the oil and you took the gold that you found over there.
U.S. always says never undermine the U.S. dollar. If not, it's going to be met with force.
2003, you invaded. The regime, you got a regime change. Iraqi's oil immediately switched back to the dollar. Saddam was captured, and everybody knows what happened to him. Weapons of mass destruction was never found because they never existed. In 2009, Gaddafi proposed a gold-backed African currency called the gold dinar.
Right.
And it was supposed to be used for oil trade. Now, when Hillary Clinton, when they had those leaked emails that Hillary Clinton had, they got out this server or whatever, it said in those emails that was the reason why they went after him was because he was trying to switch over to this gold dinar, basically putting that money under a gold standard. They even showed a video of Hillary Clinton laughing about that particular situation. 2011, you had NATO that came in, they bombed Libya. After they had Gaddafi over in the U.S. for a while, talking to him, and then they shipped him, took him right back over there and dropped him off in the middle of a protest out there where he was sodomized and murdered by the protesters. That's what happened, for real. Now, the gold dinar died right along with him. And now you got Maduro with 5 times more oil than Saddam and Gaddafi combined, actively selling in yuan, billing payment systems with China, trying to go around the SWIFT, and then also trying to sign in with BRICS. We partnering with Russia and China and South Africa, India, and all of them. Of course, now you got Saudi Arabia that done creeped their little asses over there too. So now they going over there. So you get the regime change, and then you take the, how can I put it? The way this stuff was put out now, there was no hiding behind it. They didn't hide it. They came right out and said it. They're claiming Venezuela. They're claiming the oil, and they said it belongs to America anyway because the U.S. companies developed it 100 years ago.
Right.
So by this logic, every nationalized resource in history that the U.S. has jumped into and helped them, that means that they have claim to it? Is that what that means now?
Real quick, Archbishop, I just want to insert one little thing here. One thing that I think is a key point that needs to be honed in on is the oil that because people are going, well, we have oil underneath us. What about our oil? Well, it's a totally different grade of oil. Our refineries are not actually built to refine our type of oil. It's actually meant for Venezuela oil. It's meant for the same type of oil from Saudi Arabia. It's made for that type of. So our oil is way different in the aspect. You got to think oil is actually like there's a DNA to oil. I mean, I used to deal with it. So everything it will show you where it came from. Even just testing it, it will tell you what part of the region of the world it comes from because of the type of it. And America sucks, to be quite honest. So Venezuela is a huge thing for the Western Hemisphere. And that's a huge risk now that they were about to join the BRICS alliance essentially, and with going into that regard, that's a humongous threat. After we had just lost the petrodollar, that's a humongous threat to our society. And so that's the major thing that I just wanted to hone in on.
Now, do you also remember when you brought up about Noriega, Aaron? You know, that was actually 36 years to the day that they,
No,
yeah, because it happened January 3rd, 1990. This
Okay.
happened January 3rd, 2026. Exactly 36 years to the day. Same playbook, same drug trafficking excuse, the same reason to control strategic resources and trade routes. History doesn't repeat itself. It rhymes real fucking good though, because that's exactly what's going on here. What happens next? You have Trump having this press conference talking about how the oil companies are already lined up to go over there and that they're going to make all this money off of this oil. Now, if you was going over there to get the president for narco terrorism, you go there and you get him. What made you think you was going to go in and take everything else though? You ain't do it nowhere else.
Well, because we can.
Exactly. Because you pushing up on one that you know that you can go in there and push that shit off on.
Yep.
And you trying to protect the petrodollar, and you don't want China to have that oil because they're popping around everywhere else, getting resources, signing deals with all these other countries and all this other stuff. We get it. That's what it is. But come out with the truth on it though. Stop putting all this bullshit. Talking about that you're looking for drugs and that you're hitting these drug boats and you done killed 115, 116 people and ain't even showed as much as a fucking bag of dope. You ain't showed shit. But you used that for the longest. Now you don't even
they said
hear
it was
about
fentanyl.
dope.
Yeah,
But
it was all
now-
fentanyl, but it's cocaine.
Right. You don't even hear about it. The statistics showed that it was only 1% of drugs actually leaving Venezuela that was making it to the U.S. 1%. Because all that shit goes through the travel lines and come up through Mexico and Colombia. Why don't you go after them? That's where the coke coming from. Now, you just let the ex-president of Honduras out that you had 45 years in prison for, that had bought 400 tons of cocaine into the United States, but you pardoned him and let him go.
She.
Oh shit!
Now you talk about this guy here, and you say that you trying to stop these drugs, and you've shown on TV how y'all blasted these boats, and even had one that you actually have survivors, and you turned around and blasted it again to make sure that you wiped out everybody. But you ain't showed no drugs. Now, I know, and we've seen throughout the years, many, many years, that every time that you had a drug bust, even if you tore up some shit, the drugs still floating. People find drugs in Miami floating on the damn beach all the time from boats that have
Hell
sunk.
yeah, they're on
Whatever.
jet skis and shit.
find it
Yeah,
all
they're
over
just
the place.
picking them up.
You ain't showed nothing. Now you don't even talk about the drugs. Now the only thing you're talking about is the oil.
Right, because that was the main mission.
Because
The
that's what
drugs,
you use.
from day one, I called out and I said, the drugs are going to be used as a vessel for regime change. And then I found out, after researching about it, I realized that it wasn't just the regime change aspect. It was because of what it actually boiled down to was the petrodollar.
Yeah, exactly. You
The
needed
threat-
a reason
the
to get
threat
in there, and that's
of
exactly
the
what
oil.
you did.
Right.
Exactly what you did. Same reason why you pulled the same stunt the same night in Nigeria. Talk about that you was there, that you did your little bombing mission because it was genocide against Christians, which was straight bullshit. And if you knew the history about Nigeria, you knew that you had Muslims in the north, you had the Christians in the south, but they are also mixed. Now, do you have violence in Nigeria? Absolutely. Same reason how we got violence here and everywhere else.
Yeah, there's violence everywhere.
Still ain't have no reason to go in there, but there is a reason why you want to go there though, because they got gold and they got uranium and they kicked the French out of Nigeria, just like they kicked them out of Burkina Faso, because of the gold, because of the uranium, because of the copper, because of the
Silver.
nickel, because of the platinum, because of the silver, because you're not worried about this other stuff that's going on up above. You're worried about what's below the ground. That is what you're working on. And then you pop up right after this, right after you pull this off, you said, oh, well, we need to go out to Cuba and we need to go out the Panama Canal. And we definitely need to go out to Greenland now.
Well, this just shows how much of a threat the U.S. dollar is actually in. And Trump is essentially, in his administration, is doing everything he can to essentially buy back time, essentially. And I think that this is actually going to work out on a short term where, I think the short term, it's actually going to work out for the United States for quite a while. Quite a while on that landscape of short term. But 10, 20 years from now, I don't know how I think this probably will, we'll have cake on our face, essentially. We'll see.
This is going to be one big, huge land grab. This is what this is.
Well,
yes. It's just done on a broader scale. It's always been a land grab that's been going on for years. This here is more of a global land grab. Now, mind you, you remember we was talking about before between China and Venezuela. I'm gonna let you get into what you was talking about with China here in just a second, Aaron. But China manufactured a lot of that because they had a lot of because Venezuela had that heavy crude, and they had the refineries over there that could pull it down. That's what they were using it. Just like we was doing with silver. China had the refineries over there. Mexico has the silver. You know what I mean? So it's going back and forth. This has all been just you got these major global powers. You got the US, you got China, you got Russia. They're all dibbing in all this stuff. You know what I mean? My thing is that if you're gonna do it, then let us know that that's what you're doing. Stop cutting around with this extra shit, making you think that this is what's going on, and then you put the wording out there to make it seem like that this is what you're doing, and this is the reason why we're doing it. We're doing it for national security. We're doing it for this. We're doing it for this. Bullshit. And if you think for 1 second that they're gonna sit there and do all that damn oil and he ain't gonna get his pockets greased off that shit, you sadly mistaken. Hell, he just made $3 billion just sitting there in the damn seat for the past year. So he about to get something off of that. But go ahead with what you're talking about with China.
Okay. Man. Okay, there's a bigger strategy going on here. Energy and technology is what a country has to lead in to lead the world. The petrodollar agreement is over with. So I can't fully agree that that's what's involved here. It's done. China, and we explained it in the last show, that they made an attack on our banking system. And if it wasn't for the Federal Reserve being the buyer of last resort stepping in with $34 billion on that Monday morning, a lot of the investment banks and banks would be done. And we warned everybody that on January 2nd, if China announces that they're no longer exporting silver, that's going to reduce the supply on the world market by 50%. Well, China announced that they're not going to export silver no more after we did this raid. To me, this was our response to China taking a cheap shot at our banking system, which not only did they trap our banks, they also trapped European banks as well when they slammed that trap door shut. Even JP Morgan is scrambling for liquidity right now. And they got more silver in their vaults than anybody, but they got to cover all those margin calls again tomorrow. And it's up in the billions of dollars. And right now they don't have it. So the bigger strategy is this. Venezuela, as Bishop said, has the largest oil reserves on Earth, 303 billion barrels of oil in reserve. That amounts to $17 trillion plus at the current market value. Now, the United States, we don't need the oil. If you notice that the gas pumps, the gas prices have been going down. So we really don't need that oil. China's the one that needs the oil. China buys 60 to 90% of all oil from of all Venezuela crude oil, 60 to 90%. We just cut that off with the action that we just took. Now China, how's China going to be able to provide for their energy needs? They're coming out with this AI that's supposed to be more dominant than ours. That's going to take massive power. They got that massive population that on a daily basis needs a certain amount of power, and they need the oil to provide it. Now, recently, if you've been watching the news, Iran has been destabilized. I don't know if it's just the currency or if it's political, but there's some underlying things going on. They're almost to the point of a revolution right now. Now, China buys 85 to 90% of Iranian oil exports. Now, if Venezuela and Iran fall at the same time, China's going to lose 70% of its oil supply. Now, if you lose 70% of your oil supply, you're not going to be able to go into Taiwan next year to retake Taiwan. That's out of the question. I mean, without oil, Japan couldn't fund its war machine. Without oil, China's not going to be able to run its war machine. You're not going to have the AI dominance, because if you don't have the power through energy to create that AI system, now you're going to lose to the United States. So
Aaron, can I say one thing?
Boy. Here we go. Okay, go ahead.
I asked, AI. I just asked. Historically, did the, huh?
I said, go ahead.
Oh, I thought you said you don't care.
No. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. Historically, did the U.S. get the majority of Venezuelan oil? Short answer is yes. For much of the 20th century, the United States was the primary destination for Venezuelan oil, but not always a literal quote-unquote majority every single year. It was, however, Venezuela's most important oil customer for decades. So if all of a sudden Venezuela is going to change their direction of selling it to us and dealing with us, and they're going to China, what are they going to do?
Okay, I see your point there.
Right.
But I also was looking up on here where but we was talking about when you just said that America didn't need that oil. I'm gonna read this to you, just what I got right here. It says that Canada, Mexico are the top sources of U.S. crude oil imports, accounting for about a quarter of the oil U.S. refineries process for fuel. Now they get over 4 million barrels per day from Canada. They get 465,000 barrels per day from Mexico. Saudi Arabia, they get 273,000. Venezuela, they get 228,000. Brazil, you get 218,000. Colombia, 213,000. 198,000 for Iraq, 176 from Guyana, 154,000 from Nigeria, and 122,000 from Ecuador. Now that's barrels per day that we get in. So we need that oil.
I'm going to tell you why we don't. When the Global 2000 report came out, and they did that in New York City, and all the world financiers and people from the UN had their meeting, and they used ultrasound technology from the satellites to map the Earth to see how much resources were still in the ground. When we heard what that report came out with, what did we do? We shut down our coal mines over here and started buying coal from China. We got a higher grade coal, but we decided we're going to hold on to our resources. We capped our oil wells. We were supplying our own. We didn't need anybody else's, but we capped our oil wells because we're going to run the Saudis out of theirs first. And then when nobody has none, we can uncap ours and we be the only ones sitting on the resource. That's the only reason why we need their stuff. We're totally self-sufficient. This country is rich in resources. But when we capped our oil, we shut down our coal mines, because my family in Kentucky, a lot of them ended up laid off, and they couldn't figure out why, because there's plenty of coal. Most of those mountains is solid coal, different grades. And we're buying a coal that's high in sulfur content from China. That didn't make sense. But after a Global 2000 report, and they saw that resources on Earth was not infinite, there is a limit to how much copper's in the ground, how much silver's in the ground, etc. We decided to play the long game and cap our stuff and just buy from everybody else and burn up their resources. That's the reason why it appears that we need it, but we really don't.
Okay,
And then
so we just buying oil from everybody and just not using ours at all.
That's correct.
Okay. Now stick with that. So just by them numbers that I just pulled out, excluding Mexico, Canada, which gives out 4 million a day. You add up them other ones, you got 1.8 million barrels per day that's coming from these other countries. Now, right now, Venezuela is only producing 1.3 to 1.4 million a day because a lot of their refineries are shut down, using old equipment, stuff like that.
It's
but
about 5% capacity right now is what they're running at.
But they used to produce over 3 million
right
a day.
Right. And they could do 5 times that amount too if they wanted.
So if you send them down there and they take over the refineries and add everything they need to add to it to re-up them, you don't need oil from all these other countries because you're getting all the oil you need.
It's all yours
from that one spot.
It's all yours. And we got the refineries for it already.
And then you can control where that goes. Just like they told the vice president, well, now she's the president now. What did they tell her? You're gonna cut off all relations with China. You're gonna cut off all relations with Russia and Iran, and then you're not gonna send them anything else. And if you do, then we're gonna come get you and do you the same way we just did him. That was put out there. So if you do take over the oil refineries and you send your people down there to have them do what they're gonna do with them refineries, you're right. You're not gonna need oil from none of them because you basically have it all, because that particular area has more oil than everybody in the world. So you control all of that. So you can actually bring the petrodollar back because you can say, okay, you want this oil, you have to use the US dollar to pay for it.
Yep.
That's exactly what this is about.
Well, it's now our reserves, so that's the way that the United States is looking at it. It's like, well, this is now ours. All this billions and hundreds of billions of barrels of oil we've got. Now I need to, so watch. I mean, truthfully, on a small scale, I bet you in the next year, maybe half a year to next year, the oil prices are going to be extremely down if we keep exactly at this pace. Now, anything could change day by day. I have no idea what's going to fucking happen here. I'm not going to speculate because I'm not smart enough to do it. Okay, you know what I mean? So, but at least I think on the short term, it will be a humongous W for the United States on a financial level. But then it's going to be egg on the face later. So
it would, because at that point you're able to weaponize it, and you can decide where it goes and where it don't go, and what you're gonna pay and what you're not gonna pay. That's gonna happen. But if you don't want these other countries saying anything to you about what you're doing down there, then consequently, you shouldn't be able to say anything about anything going on anywhere else. Which means if China going into Taiwan, you can't say shit. If Putin wanting to take Ukraine, you can't say shit. Why? Because you interfering in their business. But you mad because they're saying something about you. You see what I'm saying?
Sure.
So however you play this, it's not going to end the way you think. It's not going to be like, okay, everybody just going to tuck tail and run because he pulled this little stunt. Some other stuff is going to happen because, okay, you may deal with this oil over here, but there's something over here that we can control over here that we can bottom your ass out before this even take place. It can happen. And you know it can. It almost happened last week. That was just a precursor that it could have very well happened last week. And you know this for being fact. Now, you may not want to admit this, but you know it to be fact. They could have bottomed your ass out last week. And you know it.
Shit.
Now, this is just some this is just some tit for tat right now. Okay, you did this, I'm gonna do this. You did this, okay, now I'm gonna do this. They going back and forth. This is what they're doing. They playing games. At the end of the day, they're gonna continue to play games like that. And you're gonna have innocent people that's gonna end up killed for something that they knew nothing about.
Unfortunately, yes, that is going to be the truth.
That's going to be the bad part about all of this. You know what I mean?
I agree.
Like I said, you're gonna have some people that's gonna be totally in agreement with everything that's going on here. You're gonna have some that's not, because they're thinking outside the box. Like, okay, what else could go on? This isn't just, it's not going to just end like this.
Well, that's everybody that's in here watching right now is outside the box.
Right. That's not right. It's not going to just end like that. Like, okay, he took it over. Okay, everybody going to go back home and play with their own toys and everything's going to be peace in the world. No, it's not. That's not what's about to happen.
That's a good analogy.
Because you messing with somebody else's money. And when you start messing with other people's money, things happen. Now, that's just life. You mess with my money, it's going to be a problem. You mess with your money, it's going to be a problem. When you messing up to the point that you lose 17 trillion in fucking stocks, there's a problem. And they're going to figure that out, because if not, then you're going to go to war. And that's exactly what this is going to go to. Resources. This war ain't going to be about this little shit back and forth. It's going to be over these resources. And when you start taking some away from some of these other countries, especially China, I mean, even though they try to play it off like, you know what I mean, that China ain't this conglomerate, they're growing, and they've been growing, and we allowed them to grow. And now they're one of your biggest competitors. Now you don't want them around, but you let them grow. You gave them permission to do it. Now they sitting on the precipice of being able to affect what you got going on over here, whether you like it or not. They own your treasuries. They own your land. You can't own land over there, but they damn sure came over here and bought it over here, and you let them do it. So what do we got? But we hitting right at our hour, so we're going to have to trim it down. But like I said, even with all this in mind, one thing that I learned this past couple of weeks is that you have to pay attention to the little stuff, because the devil's in the details, and it's all about the wording. And they've gotten real good at putting this wording out that's not exactly what's going on, to get the population to go along with what it is. Like I said before, if you would have actually found some drugs, then you could have played this off and nobody would have said anything about it. But the fact you ain't even bring it up no more, the only thing that you're talking about is how much money you about to make off of this oil, which automatically told you that you was on some bullshit from the beginning. Now, the only thing about that is that the bad part about that is that just like anybody, when you do wrong, karma will come back and get you. It will happen. So, like I said, thank you everybody for coming out. Hit that like button. We see hundreds of people that's sitting here watching. Hit the like button. You know, while y'all watching.
Double tap that screen as well.
Like that's what put the show on the right algorithm to get it out for more people can watch and be able to tune in. There's a lot going on in this world. So just pay attention, just like we are, and we'll come back next week with something else new for you. Peace, love to everybody, and I pray for this nation. Go ahead, Aaron.
Oh, I ain't got nothing. You go ahead, Mike.
Yes, sir. All right. Much love, honor, respect to everybody. I can't thank each and every single one of you guys enough. Thank you guys for hanging out with us and engaging, being in the chat. All three of us, I believe, truly gave our amazing perspectives. Honestly, this is a huge ordeal that's happening here. So, but I can't thank each and every single one of you guys enough. Make sure you guys hit that like button and double tap the screen if you're on the vertical side. And listen, stick around because we're going to be rating our buddy Jake, Project VO Pod from my side. And listen, if you're on my side as well, make sure you guys go to Archbishop on the Diamond Effect and make sure you guys subscribe and hit the like button as well, and vice versa, man. This is what we do, man. So until next week, much love, honor, respect to all of you legends. And we'll see you guys very soon. And Papa Penguin, thank you very much for the 10 real quick at the end. Got to have a closing speech from Aaron. He's calling it out. You got to do it now. Someone paid for it.
Okay. What this is a clear example of was a countermeasure we employed because China took a shot at our banks.
Oh, what happened here?
Desperately need. This is a trade war, and it's going to get nastier than what it is right now. It's going to get brutal, and people need to be prepared for possible product shortages. You need to be stocking up right now because it's not going to end with just what we just saw. They're going to start taking shots at each other, and the American public is going to take it on the chin in the end. I'm done.
All right. Much love, honor, respect to everybody. We'll see you guys in 7 days. Stick around for the raid. We'll see you guys very soon.
They're back.